All right, so we're gonna get started here. Okay, if anybody else comes in, they can join at a later time. All right, so Tammy, you're the only one here so far, so you get to hang out and feel free to share your screen or ask any questions that you have. I can kind of help you troubleshoot with form or whatever you need. So we'll get started. So welcome to tonight's lean and squat workshop. It's designed to get you a little bit more familiar with the primal lean, stacking all the joints of the body one on top of the other so we can get into better alignment for all our exercises. And then also the squat, it's one of our foundational movements that we use actually on a daily basis. And Primal 7 system can help you get into a little bit better squat positions and take a little more weight off your knees if you have any knee issues. So we'll go over some stuff like that. So both of these are actually foundational movements. One kind of builds on top of the other. First is the primal lean, stacking it, like I said, stacking all the joints of the body. We want to make sure we're in good position with our lean so that we can do our squat or our ring rows or our push-ups or whatever exercises you're doing. And then the same thing for the squat. So tonight, what we're going to do is we'll first go over the lean, and I'll do some demo and talk about it a little bit and show you what to do and then what to watch out for, what not to do. And then after that, we'll go over some questions and answers if anybody has any questions for me, or feel free to show your screen and we can troubleshoot and help you through whatever you need there. And then we'll move on to the squats following the same format, and then Q&A at the very end. All right. Well, a little bit about myself. My name is Jenna Ellis. I'm a physical therapist. I've been a PT for over 10 years, mainly in the orthopedic setting. Working in an outpatient clinic, but also doing some home health as well. So treating patients from basically 3 to 103. I figured out the other week was my range that I've treated, oldest to youngest. So lots of different things going on there, from post-op rehab to everyday aches and pains. So lots and lots of rehab going on in the orthopedic world for me. So we'll get started today with our lean. So my band is set just resting on the floor, all right? And I actually have my rings stowed away just so that they're not knocking against the wall and creating a lot of noise for you guys, all right? So to get started with the lean, I'm gonna take my straps and I'm gonna walk out facing the anchors, all right? How to place the band. All right, so from here, the band is gonna come just directly underneath my shoulders, kind of underneath my armpits. A good place for you to kind of position this is if you take 2 fingers and put it right in the crease of your armpit. The band should be resting just below that middle finger, okay? So 2 fingers, check there on both sides, and that's a good place to find it. If you are a little bit feeling like you've got some pinching going on, you can always take a hand towel and wrap it around the band to give you a little extra comfort. Either that, or you can shimmy it down a little bit more or a little further up, but that's just kind of a good guideline to go by. All right, so starting with our lean. Real quick, if I were to put dots on the outside of my ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle, when I come into my lean, they should all line up in a nice diagonal line, okay? So we'll start getting into our lean here. I'm gonna walk all the way back till my straps are taut, and then I'm gonna take a small step forward with each foot. My feet are gonna be about hip distance apart, okay? Equal weight on both legs, and my hands are just gently resting on green here. All right, so you can see I've got my nice diagonal line here. Everything's matching up. So our hips are facing forward. You should kind of feel like the hips are gently being pushed forward here. And my eyes are looking up at the rings, hands just gently resting on green. My abs are nice and tight and my butt is squeezed, all right? So things to look out for, what to not do. First thing is pulling on the band like this and pushing down. Just gently release your fingers and just relax it on the band, all right? Second thing is looking down towards the ceiling or towards the floor. What happens is I start to push on the band this way and it's bringing me out of alignment. See how my upper back is starting to curve and my butt's starting to stick out a little bit? So make sure you're just looking up at the rings. And you saw what happened there. When I start to look up, my whole body comes up and looks a little bit better aligned, okay? All right, so next thing to look out for is my butt starts to sag back. It'll kind of feel like you're sitting into a chair or sitting upright. And this is, again, bringing us out of alignment, okay? So we want to make sure our butt's squeezed. That's how we fix it. Squeeze our butt and then just gently push our hips towards the door, okay? Next thing to look out for is twisting. So if I were to relax and kind of put all my weight on my left leg, or same thing, all my weight on my right leg, kind of lean into it, you can see that opposite knee bends a little bit, and my hips are actually twisting, so my right hip is going forward. Make sure both feet have equal weight on them, and the hips are gently pressing forward, okay? All right, next thing to look out for here is that your knees aren't bending. See how I came out of alignment here as well? Squeeze the top part of your thigh, keep those knees nice and straight. And then the last little piece of advice here is to make sure your feet are flat. Imagine if you had a triangle on your foot here. Here's one point, here's a point at your big toe, and here's one on the outside of your foot. Try to put weight equally on all 3 points of that triangle, okay? And that should give you a good sense of equal weight throughout your feet, okay? So that is the primal lean facing forward. So now we'll go facing away, all right? So now I'm gonna walk my band out and I'm gonna put it at the base of my chest, okay? So for women, think about if you had a sports bra on, it would be about that sports bra height line, the base of it. For men, think about the base of your chest, kind of just a little bit above where your ribs are, kind of right where your sternum meets there, okay? So I'm gonna put my band there, gonna let my weight come firmly, gently into the band here so it's holding me. From there, I'm gonna take a small step back with my feet, again, hips width apart, okay? Again, looking at the dots here from the outside of my ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle, all in one diagonal line here, okay? My abs are zipped up nice and tight, kind of like I'm trying to get into a tight pair of jeans, and my butt squeezed tight as well. My eyes are facing forward. Sometimes it's nice to kind of look about 10 feet out in front of you and focus on something to balance with. I see my son's little pumpkin that he has for Halloween and Thanksgiving sitting on the table, so that's what I'm focusing on, all right? Okay, so this is primal lean facing away from the anchors. Things to look out for here. Again, we'll start at the top and work our way down. So again, looking about 10 feet out in front of you, just a smidge down. We don't want to be looking all the way down like this. See what happens? My upper back rounds, my butt starts to shoot out. So bring your head up, gently tuck the chin, okay? Next thing to look out for is my abs aren't nice and tight and I start to sag forward, okay? So again, bringing myself out of alignment, I want to make sure my abs are nice and tight and I'm staying in that line. All right, next thing, moving on down the line, are my knees. So my knees need to stay nice and straight, avoid bending them. Also, you can see what happens when I bent my knees. My heels came up off the ground. Make sure we're in that triangle and we've got equal points, equal pressure on each point of that triangle with respect to our foot, like we talked about earlier. All right, so again, just a quick recap. Eyes looking about 10 feet in front of you, chin gently tucked, shoulders can squeeze down and back. Zip up your abs nice and tight, butt squeezed, and my knees and my ankles are nice and straight, okay? So that is primal lean facing away from the anchors. To come out of it, all I'm gonna do is take a small step up so I'm completely upright. So why is our primal lean important? Well, it's first important because that's where we basically start for every exercise that we do in the Primal 7 system. We want to make sure all the joints of the body are stacked one on top of the other so that we have good alignment going into our exercise. Basically, it sets us up for good success. All right, the next thing it's important for is actually everyday movement. So if I were to come into my primal lean here, keep all the joints of the body stacked one on top of the other, and then just take a step up, I'm in perfect upright position right here, okay? So it's an everyday standing posture, basically. So that's how our posture is supposed to be. One joint stacking on top of the other. So all we're doing in the Primal 7 system is leaning gently forward. And then in everyday life, we're upright. So not leaning forward and slouching like this on our phones or on our computers all day, or not pushing our hips forward and kind of sagging back like this. Every joint stacked one on top of the other, okay? All right, so that is our primal lean. I'll come back over here real quick. Does anybody have any questions about the primal lean? Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can show your video if you want me to check some form. It's up to you, whatever you want to get out of this, okay? So I'll just wait a few seconds here if anybody has any questions. And then if not, we will move on to the squat portion. Okay, so you guys, I'm guessing, are good. All right, so we'll now move on to our squats. All right, so a little bit about the squat. I have seen quite a bit of interesting squat techniques over the years as I have people come in for hip, knee, ankle, and lower back pain, basically every part pain. And I ask a patient, hey, can you show me a squat real quick? Lots of people have shown me this. I'll show you from the side here. This is a squat to them, okay? So I'll get on my soapbox here for just a little bit and talk about proper squatting technique. So when we squat, our knees should be tracking over our 4th and 5th toe. So out here, okay? Never let your knees cave in like this. It's putting a lot of increased strain on the inside of my knees, setting me up for, after years and years of wear and tear, some inside or medial knee arthritis, or even some joint pain and some ligament issues. So we definitely want to make sure that our knees are tracking out towards our 4th and 5th toe. The next thing about squatting is we need to make sure that our knees are not going past our toes. Again, that puts a ton of pressure on the front part or interior part of our kneecaps and our patellar tendons right here. That kind of makes our knee go like this. So when you're squatting, our hips should go back first. See how my knees are tracking and staying back behind my toes? That is what our squat should look like, okay? So again, showing you this way. My feet are gonna go a little wider than hips width apart, okay? Again, first, your butt sits back. Watch where my knees track. They're over that 4th and 5th toe, okay? My knees aren't caving in. I'm staying out this way, okay? And then push to stand back up, all right? So next thing here, we'll get into our band. So coming back here, walk the band out. And again, it's gonna go just underneath our armpit. So again, take those 2 fingers, place it in the crease of your armpit, and that's kind of where the band should be resting, okay? All right, first thing here, come into your primal lean, let the band just take hold of you. Kind of like somebody's just giving you a hug and you're just kind of relaxing, okay? From here, you're going to exaggerate your lean a little bit. So take a step forward with both feet. See, I'm in a little bit more of an exaggerated lean now. My feet are going to be a little wider than hips width apart. Now to start, again, we're in our nice diagonal line. The first thing that moves is our hips, and it's going to be going back. So think about if you had a stair or a small child's chair right behind you and you're reaching to sit into that chair. So what I'm gonna do is my butt and my hips are gonna hinge back first. I'm gonna come down till I feel comfortable, okay? Again, knees are still tracking out. My knees are not going past my toes. From here, I'm gonna push through my heels and my feet to straighten my knees and my hips. At the top, I'm just giving my butt a little bit of a squeeze so that my hips are completely open. Okay, again, we're gonna try it again here. My eyes are gonna stay up at the anchors. First thing that moves are my hips, sitting down and back onto that low stair or child's chair. Knees are staying out and behind my toes. I'm going to push through my heels, squeeze my butt as I come all the way up straight. Okay, now a little side note here. If anybody has any issues with knee injuries or pain such as arthritis, knee surgeries in the past that just haven't quite been the same since, or a recent like knee replacement or something that your knee is just not happy with, don't feel like you have to go all the way down into a squat. If you only want to go an inch down, completely fine. If you can go 2 inches down, that's great. Just go to where you feel comfortable and to where your knees feel comfortable too. I don't want your knees getting in a ton of pain for you trying to get all the way down into the bottom of your squat. So if you're just starting out, and let's say that I have knee arthritis and it really hurts to squat. So again, I'm going to come into my exaggerated lean here. Feet hips width apart, toes can be slightly pointed out. All I'm going to do is sit my butt back, pause, and then straighten and come back up. Okay, it's a small squat, but it's still a squat. You're starting from someplace, okay? And after doing a few sessions of those little mini squats, or a week or two, however long it takes to make you feel comfortable and get your legs a little stronger, then you can go down a little bit lower. So progress your squat a little bit. As long as it's not painful, go for it. How I normally instruct patients to go with their squat is to chair height. They're kind of like your knees are, my knees and hips are about 90 degrees. You can go a little bit below parallel is fine. The big thing I don't want to happen is that you're bottoming out and just kind of sitting down like this, not being active in your squat. So I'm just kind of hanging on my ligaments here, and I'm not actually really working. The band is doing everything for me. So I want to come up on tension. When I come up on tension, my quads are firing up, my glutes are firing up. So I actually know that my legs are working and doing it correctly, okay? All right, so that is going over some of our good squat techniques here. So some things to look out for. We'll start at the top again, okay? So the first thing actually is you're not being in a perfect alignment, or you're standing up too high. So here, when I go to squat, watch what happens, because I'm not in an exaggerated lean. I go to squat and it pulls me forward like this, or I'm just kind of hanging out and the straps aren't tight. So what you want to do is take another half step forward, okay? Then I can reach down and back. You can see my straps are staying nice and tight, and it's not pulling my chest forward like this, okay? So we want to avoid the chest going forward. All right, next thing here to look for is that our hips aren't twisting side to side, or we're not putting all our weight in our right leg or a little bit more on our left. So that's actually a good point to talk about here, is unequal weight. Let's say I have a knee issue on my right side. Subconsciously, I might not even know it, but I might be shifting a little bit more weight to my left leg than my right, kind of offloading my right and making my left leg work a lot harder. So that, unfortunately, is going to weaken your right leg, but also set you up for failure on your left leg by putting too much stress and strain on it, and it can result in an injury. So the best you can, try to get both feet having equal weight in them, all right? So the next thing to look out for when we're doing our squat is that our knees aren't coming forward over our toes like this. See what happens here by extension of my knees going forward? My heels come up off the floor, okay? So this is not a good position for our knees. It doesn't feel good right now. So I'm gonna shift my heels back and stand on up here, because my knees don't like that either. All right, next thing to look out for is our knees caving in this way. Again, we talked about this earlier, is our fourth and fifth toe is kind of our guideline. So think about knees tracking out to that fourth and fifth toe. Now we're not in ballet one position here going like this, okay? Our toes can be pointed out just slightly when we're doing this, but we don't need to be way out like this, all right? Just a smidge, just a tiny little bit, their feet can be pointed out, all right? So again, I'll show you what happens if your feet are pointed too far out. Okay, so I actually kind of, because my one side is actually more limber than my other, I actually fall over towards my left because my feet are in bad alignment. Okay, all right, and then the last things to look out for, as we touched on earlier, is our heels coming up. So that might mean that I'm standing up too high and I go to squat and the band starts to pull me forward like this, all right? So if that starts to happen, just take a bigger step forward so you're in your good lean. One thing to note here, if you've tried to adjust your feet already and you're still squatting a little bit funny, sorry, my lab says she wants to play. Rather, go lay down. Go on. So what happens here is if you've already tried to adjust your feet and you still feel like the band is pulling you forward, your band actually might be set too high. So try taking it out of the 9 hook and releasing a little bit more band towards the floor. If that still doesn't work, the band system actually might be set too high. So if you have it set, your band's on a rig, like a pull-up rig or a pull-up bar, something way overhead, that actually might be a little bit too high. And kind of going into our setup workshop that we've done in October, a good height is about 6.5 to 7.5 feet tall. Somewhere in there is a good guideline for how high your system should be set up. Okay, all right, so that is going over head to toe of our squats. All right, so now I'll come out of the band here. Does anybody have any questions about the squat? Or I can look at your form or anything else that you need.
I have a question, Jenna.
Sure, Julie, go ahead.
If my Primal 7 is real new to me, even though I bought it a while ago. I'm just getting started in it. And with regards to the squats, if in proper form, I shouldn't be having knee pain, but at what would be an indicator of I should feel more comfortable going further, because there's going to be soreness because it's a new exercise for me.
Okay, gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the question is basically, as I'm going through the squat, what should it actually feel like? Should I have soreness? Should I not have soreness? Kind of what to expect with respect to alignment. So if you are in good alignment, even if you are in good alignment, you might have a little bit of knee pain if you have some pre-existing knee issues. Okay. So if you've got arthritis and you already know that those bones are kind of grinding on each other because there's no cartilage there definitely could be some pain because of that. If you stay in good alignment, you're still working on that good quad strength. Just limit how far you go down into the squat, okay? Don't go, as I say, don't go super far into the pain cave. How I tell my patients this is, don't go to like over like a 4 or 5 out of 10 on a pain scale, kind of rate it that way. One other thing you could look out for is if you are starting the squat for the first time or first time in a while, you might actually have some soreness in your quadriceps, these big muscles right here. Right. And that's actually a good thing. If it's sore in your muscles because you've done something new or have, first time in a long time, you might get some lactic acid buildup in those muscles and you might be sore for a little bit. That's completely fine. My advice then would be to the next day, take a walk, try to get some stretching in, some light movement to kind of help flush that lactic acid out of those muscles.
Okay. Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes. Yes, it did.
Okay. All right, good. Any questions about form at all that I can help you with?
No, because I think that the band itself, once you're in that prime lean, It really kind of does it for you. I have been
Yeah.
doing some cardio kickboxing, and of course, squats are a big part of that. And I end up doing wall squats more often than regular squats just because it's just hard and I'm just not there
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
So,
I understand. Yeah. And this is actually a great way to build up your strength. And especially if you've got issues with your knees, it's a great way to make sure that you can slow down your movement. It's kind of like having a spotter or a workout buddy with you. You can slow that movement down and really look at your form as you're going through it. So those toes tracking out to the fourth and fifth toe, knees are not caving in, your butt's sitting back. So hopefully after doing this, of working with it in the Primal 7 system, hopefully it'll start to translate over into everyday life. So I'll show you guys here. This is my son's little chair. When I sit here, just like in our Primal 7 system, what happens first? My butt reaches back towards that chair. Okay, so think about if you had like a dining room chair or a table chair at a restaurant, something like that. You would always sit your butt back. We wouldn't go like this. So make sure that butt is hinging back first before you do any other movement. Okay, so it's the hips that are key in that. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Tammy, do you have any questions? You're good? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for following along with me tonight. Hopefully that gave you a little bit more insight onto how to get into a better primal lean position and better squat position. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. My email, I will put it in the chat here, is jenna@primal7.com. There we go. And if you forget that email address, you can always go on to our website and hit the contact button there, and then you can get in touch with me from there. I hope my son's trying to come say hello. The perks of working from home during pandemic. Hi, buddy. Can you go over there, please? All right. So just real quick here, I'll go over a schedule. This is the last class for the week. If you want to go back over and see this class again, it's going to be posted. The link will be posted in our Facebook group. If you'd like the link too, and you're not on social media, you can always email me or our company, and we can send you the link too. It'll be a private link to a YouTube video. So next week on the 9th, so that's Monday, we're going to try an early morning class. It's going to be 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. We had a lot of feedback saying people wanted a class before work. So we're going to try it early and see what happens. So we're going to do our lower back sciatic class, pain relief class number 1. And then the next class will be on Thursday, the 12th. And that one will be in the evening at 6:30 Eastern time, 5:30 Central, and that's going to be going over push-up and row technique. So if you want to get a little bit better with your technique with a push-up or a row, tune in then and we can go over stuff just kind of like we did here tonight. And then the week after that, we have a setup workshop on Tuesday. If you have any issues with troubleshooting and setting up the system, using it, we'll go over everything there. And then the last class of that week will be on Wednesday at, again, 8:30 in the morning Eastern time, 7:30 Central. We'll be going over Foundations 2, kind of a follow along in teaching there. And then the last class in November will be Monday, the 23rd. And that will be at, again, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, 7:30 Central a.m. And we'll be going over the neck and upper thoracic pain relief class number 1. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have for you guys tonight. Again, please feel free to contact me whenever you need. My email is there, or email our company and they can get you sent over to me if you forget mine. All right. Well, have a great night, guys. Be well. And I'm so glad you keep moving with us. Thank you.